guys, I am a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for almost 10 years now. It was a question, but it was a statement as well. Anyway, Serena says, considering pharmacy as opposed to medicine for work-life balance, first year undergrad student looking for some guidance, becoming a physician or becoming a pharmacist. Now, it's hard for me to really provide a ton of context because I am not a physician. I've never been a physician. However, as a pharmacist, I will say that I think it depends on the setting where you work, how much work-life balance you are able to achieve, what your personality is like, what your temperament is, and then what your goals are in terms of your career goals. Do you prefer fulfillment? Do you prefer financial gain? It's gonna depend. And I say that because if you go the retail route and you become a pharmacy manager, depending on what company you work for, and I don't even want to say depending on what company you work for, I feel like no matter what company you work for, you are going to be on call 24/7 because it's like manage the mess when it happens or clean up the explosion after. Pharmacy manager, I am on all the time. Now, certainly it's not like being on call as a physician, and certainly instances where I'm actually having to go to the location are few and far in between, but I definitely carry a lot of that work and weight home. Now, if you work at a call center, as I do, as a pharmacist overnight, I go there, I do my work, I come home, I'm good. So there's really good work-life balance at my other job. If I just worked my other job, I probably would be living the high life, really. Staff pharmacist in a retail setting, your work-life balance would kind of be limited to just what's happening at work mostly, unless you take home the emotional drama and baggage and trauma and all of the things that you have there. Being a physician, I think it depends on how well you probably would be able to streamline your workflow. For my friends who are physicians, it seems like if they aren't able to get their notes done, their notes are things that they have to do after the patient has left, and sometimes that bleeds into like their off time. If you're trying to have your own practice, putting the time and effort and things like that into building that practice, and then being on call, you do get paid for that, but from my understanding, the pay for being on call is kind of funky and not that great. So I think in general, it really is just going to be on the setting and what you want to do. I think you probably should focus more in terms of work-life balance on what you want to do. And I say that only because there are a lot of healthcare professionals who work part-time. I think nursing provides a lot of flexibility. I think it really just depends on the setting, in my honest opinion. From what I can tell, I think it depends on the setting. I think that you have a lot of autonomy if you go into medicine, especially if you're going into like an MDDO program. So it opens you up to a lot of consulting opportunities, in my opinion. And that's just from consulting a pharmacist. A lot of opportunities I get screened out of because I'm not a physician, and I see a lot of opportunities for physicians. There's a lot of remote work available. So if doing something remote is important to you, there's not a ton of remote work for pharmacists. Sometimes it's really up there, sometimes it's not. I don't think the pay is that variable, but again, I'm not a physician. I think the pay is pretty solid. It doesn't fluctuate, or it hasn't stagnated as much for physicians as it has for pharmacists. I think overall, becoming a physician, you have a lot more freedom to go into different areas, in my opinion. Do I wish I would have gone to be an MDDO? No. I went into pharmacy for very specific reasons. I think it has, suited my personality so far so well in a capacity. Sometimes I wish that I did have, recently the state is hiring for a deputy commissioner of health or something like that, and you have to have a medical degree. aside from that, everything else sounds like totally something that I would do and be good at and really just love and enjoy. I think if you don't get PGY 1 or 2 training, if you don't get super specialized in pharmacy, sometimes it's hard to pivot. I don't think that I've had trouble pivoting, but I also haven't like drastically pivoted the way that I would have liked to, or maybe to my full capacity yet. And that's just like, I have a husband, I have children, so I just don't have the flexibility to just pick up and leave or go back and get certifications and things like that. It's a highly personal choice. I don't think I have bad work-life balance. I think it could be better, but I could also be putting that on myself. I think no matter what you decide, you will have to find a way, whether it is pharmacy or whether it is medicine, you will have to find a way to cultivate work-life balance for yourself. And that's going to look different for everybody, depending on what your likes are, your interests, your personality, your temperament. I would focus more on what really is a passion of yours. What are some goals? Where do you see yourself? What type of impact do you want to make and you see yourself making? And what degree could get you there? If time is of the essence and the shortest amount of time is a constraint with the least financial expenditure. Those would be the things that I would consider. Go and see, what is the outlook? The pay for pharmacists is relatively the same wherever you go in the U.S. It's normally within a specific range. You probably could go as low as $80,000 up to as high as $250 for director level, industry level, $300,000 maybe with stocks and stock options and bonuses and things like that. Whereas depending on what type of physician you choose to become, or if you are thinking about PA or NP, depending on, if you have your own practice, are you going into mental health? Are you going into orthopedics? That could just be your base, and everything else could be on top. So it's hard to say. It's so hard to say. But that's what I would look at. The cost analysis. Like, how much is it going to cost you to get the degree? How long is it going to take you to get the degree? What are you losing each year that you're not working? Longevity. How long do people typically work in the field? What is the burnout rate in the field? A scale of 1 to 10 right now. I'm very new in my position as a pharmacy manager. I'm probably about a 7 or 8. Honestly, I don't feel like my predecessor was a 7 or 8, but I don't feel like we also have the same responsibilities. So I think, I don't know, I can't speak for her. If I had to do it over again, would I go back and be a pharmacist? I'm not sure. Do I want my children to be pharmacists? No. The thought was that pharmacy provided you a lot of flexibility. In reality, I don't think it provides you retail pharmacy, because I always was very focused on becoming a retail pharmacist. I enjoy, for the most part, 7 out of 10, being a retail pharmacist. And I don't think it provides a ton of flexibility, actually, as the markets and things have changed. But either way, you can't go wrong in terms of, you are asking the right questions. You write you a list, keep your pros and cons, think about your personality, think about what you want out of life and want for life, and, write it down and look at it and see what you think the best path for you will be. That's the best I have to offer. I'm sorry, I don't feel like that's that great, but that's all I got. Okay, until next time. Bye.